Magandang umaga. Welcome sa atin pong Get It Straight with Daniel Razon ngayong araw po na ito. Kagaya ng atin pong binibigay sa inyo ang pagpapatuloy ng paghahatid ng iba't ibang mga impormasyon na direkta mula po sa mga taong concern. Kasi alam naman ninyo, ayaw ho natin na tayo ay mabiktima ng mga fake news, ng mga misinformation, mga misleading informations. Mas maganda po direkta mula po dun sa bibig ng mga taong concern. Malaman natin at madinig ang iba't ibang mga bagay po na maipararating natin sa ating mga kababayan. At kung ano ang magiging significance nito sa ating mga buhay, magkatulong-tulong tayo. Alam nyo ho, panahon ngayon na sabi nga natin, kaya tayo mayroong mga serbisyong bayanihan dahil mahalaga po na tayo magkatulong-tulong bilang mga Pilipino, isang sambayanan para sa atin pong pagsulong ng buhay na ang pamahalaan ho natin ngayon, abalang-abala sa pagtugon sa krisis sa COVID-19. Pero alam nyo po, ang isang sinasabi nila, tinututukan pa rin nilang patuloy, ito pong iba pang mga mahalagang issue na kinakaharap ng ating bansa. Gaya na lamang ho nitong ating usapin sa territorial dispute at ganun din yung mga corruption sa iba't ibang mga government agencies. Bago natin himayin ang mga kontrobersyal na issue, kasama ng ating panauhin ngayong umaga para tulungan po tayo na matalakay at makapagbigay po sa atin ng mga mahalagang information. Alam nyo, iba rin yung may nakakausap po tayo na makukuhanan natin ng maaaring definisyon ng iba't ibang mga bagay, yung mga nalaman na nila, noong mga una, yung mga bagay na pwede nating i-take into consideration bago po tayo magbigay ng sarili nating mga pananaw o alam natin kung ano ating mga paniniwalaan. Pero bago ho tayo mag-umpisa sa ating talakayan, panoorin niyo muna po ito.
Agawan ng teritoryo sa West Philippine Sea, nagpapatuloy na giyera kontra iligal na droga at issue hinggil sa umano'y nangyayaring human rights violation sa bansa. Ilan lamang ito sa mga kontrobersiyang kinakaharap ngayon ng Administrasyong Duterte. Subalit, papaano nga ba nire-resolba ng pamahalaan ang mga mahalagang isyong ito gayong nahaharap ang bansa sa pandemya? Sa mensaheng binitawan ni Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte sa mga leader ng ASEAN nito lamang Hunyo, sinabi nito na nakakaalarma ang mga nangyayari sa South China Sea.
Even our region struggles to contain COVID-19, alarming incidents in South China Sea occurred. We call on the parties to refrain from escalating tension and abide by the responsibilities under the international law.
Magugunitang mahigit isang taon na ang nakalipas mula nang mabangga ng isang Chinese vessel ang FB Gemver 1 sa may recto o reed bank na bahagi ng West Philippine Sea. Tinawag ng Pangulo na maritime accident ang nangyari. Nito namang Pebrero, tinutukan ng armas ng Chinese warship ang BRP Conrado Yap ng Philippine Navy habang nagpapatrolya malapit sa Rizal o Commodore Reef sa West Philippine Sea. Batay sa pananaw ng eksperto at direktor ng University of the Philippines Institute of Maritime Affairs and Law of the Sea na si Professor J. Batong Bakal, hindi humupa ang tensyon sa West Philippine Sea. Sa nakalipas na 4 na taon ng pagiging bukas at mapagbigay ng Duterte administration sa China, walang malaking pagsulong ang negosasyon. Bagkus ay sinasamantala umano ng China na isulong ang kanilang interes habang abala ang ibang mga kaagaw na bansa sa pagtugon sa COVID-19 pandemic. Tiniyak naman ni Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana, patuloy na gumagawa ng mga hakbang ang pamahalaan upang lalo pang protektahan ang teritoryo ng bansa. Bukod sa territorial dispute, malaking suliranin din ng bansa ang iligal na droga at mga alegasyon kaugnay sa paglabag sa karapatang pantao. Sa mga suliraning kinakaharap ng kasalukuyang administrasyon, isa-isa nating talakayin ang ilang mga napapanahong issue. Ano nga ba ang estado ng negosasyon sa pagitan ng Pilipinas, China at ng iba pang mga bansa na nag-aagawan sa South China Sea? May mga kontrata nga ba ang Pilipinas sa mga Chinese firm na kabilang sa mga nagsasagawa ng militarisasyon at reklamasyon sa West Philippine Sea? Sa patuloy na pagpapaigting ng pamahalaan sa paglaban sa iligal na droga, lumalala nga ba ang umano'y mga kaso ng paglabag sa karapatang pantao sa Pilipinas?
At para po tayo itulungan na maintindihan ang iba't ibang mga bagay na nakapaloob sa iba't ibang mga issue para mas lumawak po ang ating mga pananaw at magkaroon tayo ng masasabi nating mapagbabasihan kung ano man yung ating bibigay na opinion, ano man yung ating magiging side, ay makatalakayan po natin at papasalamat tayo. Binigyan tayo ng panahon ang chairman po ng Philippine Council for Foreign Relations at dati pong ating DILG Secretary Rafael Alunan III. Secretary, magandang umaga po sa inyo. Kumusta?
Magandang umaga sa iyo, Kuya Daniel. Long time no hear and no see. Thank you for having me.
Pero nakikita ko naman kayo palagi dahil very active din kayo sa social media. Pero syempre, nami-miss ko na din yung atin pong mga face-to-face encounter. But just the same, I'm happy to see you na getting stronger pa rin. Ano? At active kayo dito sa iba't ibang mga discussions. Pero sana po matulungan nyo din kami dahil para mas maging malawak yung aming mga kaisipan at ating mga kababayan dito po ay maging aware dahil kayo po ay dating Secretary ng Department of Interior and Local Government at malaki ang participation po ninyo sa iba't ibang mga activities ng pamahalaan. And ngayon, you are the chairman nito pong tinatawag natin na Philippine Council for Foreign Relations. Ito ay, tama po ba? This was established 1985 pa, Secretary?
That's correct. It was established in 1985 and then it went through its phases. Tumaas ang value ng PCFR during the time pero after a while bumaba. So we're now reviving it.
Okay. So ito po is a non-governmental organization. How is the government acknowledging it, Secretary?
We've been helping the government by providing them constructive advice as well as by holding track 1.5 dialogues with our counterparts in various countries, particularly China. At itong usapin, ang results sa mga dialogues ay pinapasa din namin sa gobyerno to be able to assist them in expanding their situational awareness. Kasi pag you know more about how another country thinks, kung ano yung mga pinaparating nila sa inyo via back channels, you'll be able to process things much better and arrive at informed decisions.
So parang kumbaga mabibigyan nyo sila ng idea paano mag-isip itong iba't ibang mga counterparts din sa ibang bansa. Pero ano ho ba talaga ang main purpose ng pagkaka-establish nito pong PCFR?
Well, it's basically to engage in international relations. That's number one. Number two, to serve as a think tank. Number three, to serve as a policy advisor. No? In other words, it's all part of whole of governance and whole of society undertaking for nation-building purposes. At yung aming value is in terms of providing, we'd like to say intelligent advice.
Sino-sino po ang mga active pa na kasama nyo dito, Sec?
Well, we have 4 sectors, yung National Security Committee is one. The other is the Diplomatic Committee or Diplomatic Sector, composed of, yung sa National Security Committee, composed of former senior security and defense officials, including military and police. Doon naman sa Diplomatic Sector, former ambassadors nandoon. And then we have the Economic Sector, composed mainly of businessmen. And the fourth sector that we have is the Academic Sector, composed of academicians. Yung board namin is mga 7 kami and they're drawn from the different sectors.
Secretary, matagal na hong usapin itong West Philippine Sea, itong dispute natin with China. No? Ano ba ang advice na ibinigay ninyo sa gobyerno with regard to this, Secretary?
Well, Kuya Daniel, my personal involvement began in August 2016. Noong binuo ni Presidente Duterte ang isang task force headed by former President Ramos to break the ice with China.
Mhm.
And doon sa task force na yon, magkakasama kami ni ang kasalukuyan nating ambassador to China, Chito Santa Romana, at ang apo ni former President Ramos na si Samuel Alistair Jones. At ang ginawa namin doon sa Hong Kong to break the ice with China was to meet with two people that were well known to the President, to President Ramos. Dahil he was the chairman of BOAO, the BOAO Forum that was based in Hainan. At doon nakadestino si Dr. Wu Shichun, one of the guys we met in Hong Kong. As well as si Madame Fu Ying, who was once the ambassador of China to the Philippines. So kilala niya itong dalawa. So he was able to quickly establish lines of communication. At doon sa Hong Kong, binuo namin ang isang communique that is serving as the basis for our continued talks with China. Particularly yung counterpart namin ng PCFR na yung Chinese People's Institute for Foreign Affairs or si PIFA, which was founded 70 years ago by Chow Enlai. Itong track 1.5 dialogue consisting of former government officials and existing or current government officials from both sides engage in discussions that involve contentious issues. So for the past 5 years, we've been talking about the South China Sea issue. And hindi nagbabago yung posisyon namin. So talagang firm ang posisyon. Sa kanila, they insist on sovereignty, indisputable sovereignty over the entire South China Sea, or almost the entire South China Sea. Kami naman, at tayo, sa Pilipinas, we're insisting that they respect our sovereign rights in our exclusive economic zone. Sabi ko, sabi namin, doon tayo nagkakatalo. And on the other hand, the other side of the discussions explore opportunities where we can collaborate and cooperate, where there are no issues, where there are no contentious issues involved. In the field of economics, in the field of culture, academe, etc., technology, scientific cooperation. This is what we've been doing for the past 5 years. But in the course of the discussions, formal at saka informal, there are meaty exchanges, and this gives us the opportunity to feel the pulse of the other side, where they're headed. Sila ba'y nakikinig? Are they sending us cryptic messages that we have to read between the lines and we have to analyze and pass on? Things like those are very much involved in our engagement with them. So, for the past 5 years, shall we say, rubric of our discussions fall under human and ecological security. Kasi doon sa Hong Kong, yun ang pinag-usapan namin, that what binds us together as citizens of the global commons, or meaning to say global citizens, China as well as the Philippines. Kesyo malaki ka o medyo maliit, or whether we're small nation or big nation, doesn't matter. We're all global citizens. Ang ating responsibilidad is human and ecological security sa buong South China Sea. For example, food security, energy security. This cannot be impounded by any one country. This is for the global commons, for humanity. So our cooperation should be based on preserving and protecting the South China Sea for the sake of human and ecological security. At very important doon sa prinsipyo na yan is the demilitarization of the South China Sea. Because how can you ensure human and ecological security if there is a confrontation at sea by big powers like China and the United States, or China and the smaller powers in ASEAN, we will never be able to secure the South China Sea for human and ecological purposes. No? So, when they ask for specifics, sabi namin, well, if you agree that the South China Sea is for human and ecological security, then it follows that we declare the entire South China Sea as a zone of peace, a zone for human and ecological security. In which case, you have to demilitarize. There should be no form of militarization or presence of military in the South China Sea, except when it is used for humanitarian purposes, for safety of life at sea, or for crossing the sea to other nations and render humanitarian assistance and disaster response. So ito yung aming mantra every time we meet. But as we discuss these things on an annual basis, there are nuggets of information that we both gather and which are delivered to, I suppose, the higher-ups in government for them to process and see where we could further improve relations and improve our capacity for governance and statecraft. Yun. Ganyang ka-complicated yan, ganyang ka-sensitive ang sitwasyon. And it's a hands-on thing. Hindi pwede gawing autopilot itong mga usapin na ito. You have to be...
Well, Secretary, kayo po kumbaga, so kumbaga pwede natin sabihin, nobody can say that you are wet behind the ears. For certain, kumbaga talagang your wisdom with regard especially in dealing with people sa mga ganitong sitwasyon. Nakikita nyo ba meron pang yung kaisipan ng China medyo meron pang direksyon na mas sway pa sila, or parang ito is hindi, eto kami, bahala kayo sa buhay nyo, kung kaya nyo kami, sige, banggain nyo kami, pero eto ang amin talaga, we'll take this. Parang walang dito, wala tong no buts, no ifs, walang dito, amin to, kami ang mananatili dito. Is that the kind of thinking that they have?
Well, the sense that I get, Kuya Daniel, is that they will keep on talking to you and dribble the ball or freeze the ball. And we'll just go along with you. Basta talk, walang problema. Talk is cheap naman no? Yeah. But once it comes to reaching certain decisions that will, for example, mutually benefit both of you, sasabihin nila, they're very consistent, okay lang, pero you must recognize that we have indisputable sovereignty over the South China Sea. Kaya't walang nangyayari. So itong attitude na ito is not only experienced by us, which is why we brought them to the arbitral tribunal after so many years, no? Na ganun yung trato sa atin, ganun yung balik sa atin, na okay lang, mag-usap tayo, let's talk about what we can do together for as long as you recognize our indisputable sovereignty. The whole world today now understands it. Kaya yung mga global security experts, more and more, including former heads of state, are coming to the conclusion that at the rate China is going, where it is rigid on its position about its historical rights and ownership of the South China Sea, that sooner or later, magkakabanggaan talaga out at sea. And the US is preparing for that.
So, in other words, parang chinutubibo lang din tayo nila. Parang ang gusto mo sabihin po sa secretary dito, eto yung candy. Gusto mong tikman? Hindi, akin to. Parang ganon. Kung gusto mo, sige, pukpuk sa ulo mo to kung pipilitin mong kuhanin ito. Parang, kumbaga, parang talagang hindi ka makakatikim nitong candy na to. Kung sabihin mo man na gusto mo makatikim, okay lang, makikipagkwentuhan ako sa'yo. Pero hanggang doon ka na lang, tatakam-takam ka na lang dyan. At pagkapilitin mo, kahit na didilaan mo lang tong candy na to, hindi pwede. Or else, babatukan ko ulo mo. Parang gano'n na lang parang street language, Secretary.
Tama. Yun ang dating nila. A very good example is tayo. Nung we had an incident doon sa Scarborough. Anong ginawa nila? Tinigil nila yung trade natin for 3 months. Tinigil nila yung import ng bananas, tinigil nila yung pagpadala ng mga turista dito sa atin para matikman natin yung economic loss for going against them. And today, the best example is Australia. Because Australia is now becoming more assertive at it has openly pushed back China regarding its position sa South China Sea at doon na rin sa kanilang lugar sa South Pacific because they're already feeling the pressure of China there, the presence. Tinigil nila yung imports. Sabi ng Australia, ng China sa kanila, sige, kung yung gusto ninyo, okay, we stop everything and you're going to suffer. Ganon. So in this, sa madalit sabi, we are facing a China that is controlled by hawks. But it's not monolithic because there are many from what we know inside that there are also the moderates. But the moderates right now seem to be subordinated to the hawks that are in control.
In this situation po, Secretary, kasi parang it's like, sige, kung gusto mo lumaban sa akin, lumaban ka sa akin. Pero problema, hindi mo naman kaya lumaban sa akin. So, magsuccumb ka na lang kung ano yung kapritsyo ko, kung ano yung gusto ko. We're having this kind of situation and we have to face it. Di naman tayo pwede sa kanila makipaggera kung sa sarili lang natin. At hindi naman tayo pwedeng makipagsuntukan sa kanila kung sa sarili lang natin. Dahil maiksi ang kamay natin, hindi rin tayo aabot. Parang hahawakan ka lang sa noo, wala, talo ka na. Ano po ang advice din nyo dito sa ganitong situation? Because we can't go to war with China and alam naman natin yun. Ano po ang ating pwede pang gawin kung sakasakali using an intelligent, kumbaga po ay decision, Secretary?
Well, we have very few options, but we've taken those options. First is building our credible deterrence. Kasi for the longest time, naiwanan ito building credible deterrence. The other is building our alliances or strengthening our defense partnerships with other countries. So that way, we can deal with the situation, not bilaterally, but multilaterally. Critical sa atin, yung build-up ng ating defense capability. Medyo maganda na ang takbo dahil si Pangulong Duterte, halimbawa, approved for the second horizon around 300 billion pesos worth of air, sea, land equipment and systems to build our credible deterrence. Pero tinamaan tayo ng COVID. So a lot of the funds that were earmarked for the procurement of defense articles ay na-divert to protect our citizens from the impact of COVID. So na-postpone yung pagbibili nitong mga defense equipment to the third horizon. The third horizon is on the next 5-year stretch starting 2022 hanggang 2027, ganon. Or 2023 hanggang 2028. Medyo naiiwanan tayo dito sa build-up, and in the event of an early conflict, let's say between our defense partners and allies with China, in a coalition, we're going to be the weakest link. At what we want to do is we want to avoid being that. Kasi is not so much going to war against China, but our ability to protect our interests within our EEZ and in our territory. Wala nakakahiya. So, government has to find a way to overcome the impact of COVID on the funding for credible deterrence. One way is to really be serious about cutting back on corruption. Alam mo, Kuya Daniel, nung panahon namin ni Presidente Ramos, one of the first things that he wanted to find out is how many percent of the budget is being lost to corruption and inefficiency and incompetence. At ang tinansya ng Department of Finance at that time was around 20%. Biro mo yung annual budget namin noon at that time, 1992, was 500 billion pesos. 20% was 100 billion ang nawawala. Sabihin na lang natin na hindi na tumaas yung 20%. Steady na lang yung 20% hanggang ngayon. Ilan na ba ang budget natin? 4 billion? 4 billion na. 4 trillion. 4 times 20%. That's 800 billion ang nawawala. Okay? So, can you imagine if we can save half of the 20%, iligtas natin yung kalahati, which is about 10% of the budget, from corruption. That's 400 billion that we can bring back and put to good use for credible deterrence, for social welfare, for basic services, etc. But that hasn't happened. And so today, we keep on, ang naririnig ko lagi is wala tayong pondo para ituloy yung credible deterrence. Unfortunately, they are not doing enough to do so.
So in this
the other thing,
yes, in this situation po, parang ang laban na ba lang natin dito ngayon you can't beat them, join them. Ganun lang po ba yun?
Hindi pa. Another point, Kuya, is yung kung darating sa labanan doon sa laot, ang mga protagonist doon ay mga big powers. Kasi wala naman tayong kakayahan. Okay. If at all, yung kaya lang natin yung kanilang maritime militia, yung kanilang mga fishing boats na ginagamit din birang militia that keep on intruding sa ating West Philippine Sea. Baka yan pwede pa nating tirahin. Pero our biggest problem are the infiltrators na nandito na sa loob ng ating teritoryo. We have allowed, because of corruption, a lot of suspected infiltrators in various sectors of society. Kagaya ng panahon ng World War II, before World War II, where we were infiltrated by the Japanese. Yung local gardener, yung local trader, yung local industrialist, yung local retailer at wholesaler, yung pala mga intelligence agents ng Japanese Army. At nung inatake na tayo, ayun, nagsilabasan na sila lahat with their uniforms. And that is what is being observed on the ground by many quarters, by many Filipinos, not only here in Metro Manila, but in different parts of the country. At ano yung mga points of infiltration? Yung infrastructure, yung tawag nito, yung drugs, yung droga, yung mining, yung small businesses, yung trading. Nandyan lahat yan. At are we doing something about that through counterintelligence? Kasi hindi naman makakapasok yan kung wala silang ayuda from local corrupt officials. Lalo dyan sa immigration, halimbawa. Yan ang pinupunteriya ngayon ni Presidente Duterte. And also high officials, no? And at saka yung mga big businessmen that really don't care about the national interest but only their own pockets. We are not seeing that. And to me, that is the biggest threat. Magbakbakan man sila doon sa laot, pag tayo ay sumabak, titirahin tayo rito kasi nandito na sila.
ang ibig nyo hong sabihin ngayon dito, kung kayo ang tatanungin, hindi ninyo i-entertain the likes of, halimbawa, offer ng China to help with our infrastructure, giving us the technology as well as the people, the experts na ngayon ay involved sa ating mga public works and all other things na sila po ay nagiging bahagi. Kumbaga, parang nandito sila sa loob. Samantalang ito, kung parang sinasabi nyo, wala tayong magagawa dyan, dito tayo sa may magagawa tayo. Huwag natin pabayaan na pasukin tayo. Isang paraan po yun na napapasok tayo dahil nga nakikipagkaibigan pa din tayo sa kanila dahil di ka naman basta pwede makipag-away. At sa pakikipagkaibigan natin sa kanila, we seem to be sleeping with the enemies na eto, in-entertain mo dito. Is that what you are saying, Secretary?
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we have to be responsible in our governance.
Okay.
Because we should be doing business with everybody, no? Pero
Okay.
kung malulusutan tayo, it's not because of them, it's because of us. Kung tatanga-tanga tayo, eh talagang malulusutan tayo. So it's a question of good government, good law enforcement, and being firm about our national interests, and public interests. Right now, wala sa vocabulary natin yung national at saka public interest, puro self-interest.
So, paano sinasabi nyo?
Ang problema, Kuya Daniel, ang problema hindi yung kalaban natin, ang problema tayo mismo. We are our own worst enemy.
Parang sinasabi nyo ba na hindi naman talaga tayo tatanga-tanga kung hindi nagpapakatanga lang tayo for some reason?
Posible. Posible na ganon, posible na talagang tanga tayo.
Pero binabanggit nyo dito is corruption pa din ng isa, no? Parang halimbawa, ito hindi naman dapat sana na nandito kaya nakapasok because of corruption. Ano ba ang nakikita po ninyo with the fight against corruption ng kasalukuyang gobyerno? Are we on the right track or anong intelligent advice that you have given the government with regard to this?
Well, it's not so much intelligent advice that I've given this government. During the time of President Ramos, one of the first executive orders that he issued, after careful analysis of what's wrong with Philippine society, is yung executive order niya for moral recovery. Because our value system, we've lost our moral moorings. Our value system has been shredded through time, and where self-interest subordinated national interest and public good and the common good. So, sabi niya, what's important is our mindset in our souls. Kasi that is what drives everything. We cannot keep on talking about anti-corruption if you're still corrupt. Di ba? Only people who are clean can really go after the corrupt. But the corrupt cannot go after the other corrupt because they're all in the same boat. Good example, the conduct of yung campaign against the corrupt. Sino ang gagamitin mo to enforce the law when you have not undertaken a house cleaning campaign muna? That is what we did during our time with President Ramos. We started the cleanup of the criminal justice system. Ang problema, we ran out of time. It should have been continued by succeeding administrations because this was a national campaign and policy. Pero hindi nasunod. Walang sustainability, walang continuity. That's the other problem that we have in our state of mind. Because of self-interest, wala tayong continuity mindset. So whatever the predecessor did, tabi muna yan. Ako muna ang gusto ko. And oftentimes yung gusto ay does not, hindi magkatugma sa common good at saka sa national interest. So, you have to change mindsets, and that's through moral recovery. Then, you have to have an honest-to-goodness house cleaning. house cleaning of all the institutions that harbor corrupt elements. Kasi if you're going to run after corruption and these guys are still there, ay magtutulungan lang naman yan. Simple lang naman yan. It's common sense.
How's your relationship now with the president? Binanggit niyo ho ba yan sa kanya?
Well, we haven't spoken to each other since the elections last year. But
So,
I'm sure they're monitoring what I'm saying here in Facebook.
So, practically, kasi pag tinignan ko yung mga sinasabi nyo sa Facebook at saka sa Instagram, hindi kayo happy with how things are being handled, hindi ho ba?
Well, that's for every administration. Kasi we have not done anything to change ourselves. So that's a lingering problem, regardless of who's in charge. Philippine society has not changed itself. So nakakapagtataka na sigaw tayo ng sigaw, we want a better Philippines. But are we doing anything to be a better we, a better you, a better me? Wala eh. There's a disconnect. There's a disconnect. That's why walang katapusan itong problema natin. Paulit-ulit. Itong conversation natin, Kuya Daniel, we could have had this 10 years ago or 20 years ago. Ganon din.
Yeah.
Ganon din ang sasabihin natin.
and so on, ano, at sa mga susunod pa. Pero masakit pong masakit tanggapin, but of course we have to really look at the reality kung ano yung nangyayari and yung katotohanan na nasa paligid natin. Ano ang pinaka list as of the moment that can be done, which is pwedeng sabihing welcome pa na gawin?
Well, every cabinet secretary is the alter ego of the president. And the president, since day one, said that ayaw niya ng corruption, ayaw niya ng drugs. No? So sila mismo should be in the forefront and then at the same time informing the public of their achievements or accomplishments on a daily basis or weekly basis. Para naman na ma-inspire yung tao na number one, we have a government that is working. Number two, nakikinig naman sa leader. At number three, may nangyayari. What's happening now is we're listening to the president say the right things, but pagdating na sa execution, there are good moments, there are bad moments, but on the whole, very few are really working day and night to carry out his instructions. The rest are just governance by publicity.
So paano ho ngayon itong natin? Kumbaga parang ganon, maghihintay na lang din tayo ulit. Kasi as of the moment, malakas ang social media. Marami nagsasalita sa social media. Nakakalungkot nga lang din, syempre marami kang i-filter na sinasabi sa social media dahil bawat isa na lang may sariling channel at bawat isa na lang magaling. Bawat isa na lang parang kanya-kanyang komentaryo at pagka hindi ka pa marunong mag-determine, biktima ka pa ng fake news at ng mga misinformation. So as of the moment, aside from what you are doing in the social media, you've been very active ng pagbibigay ng inyong mga opinions. Bilang mamamayan, saan tayo pwedeng pagkaisa na kagaya sinabi nyo nga, mag-umpisa tayo ng pagbabago sa sarili natin. And that's very, naman talaga, parang that's very basic. Hindi naman tayo pwedeng magtuturo ng puwing ng iba na yung tahilan sa mata natin nandiyan pa rin. But apart from that, yung talagang pwedeng sa, kumbaga, maumpisahan, mag-i-institutionalize. Sabi nga ninyo kasi may inumpisahan ka, di naman natutuloy Parang gano'n na lang, papalitan ng pangalan. Ngayon, Rafi Alunan. bukas wala na si Rafi Alunan dito sa pwesto. Hindi, palitan natin proyekto na yan. Kailangan itong pangalan ni Procopio dahil para si Procopio yung sikat, yung sistema niyan. Huwag mong pabayaan. Makikredit yan kay Rafi Alunan. All of those, matagal na ho yan. Bata pa ho ako. Ngayon po lolo na ako at mag-dual citizen na rin. Ano? But just the same, kailangan natin pa rin mag-umpisa somewhere. Apart from dun sa sarili natin, saan pa tayo pwede na magtulong-tulong ng mga mamamayang Pilipino, Secretary?
Kuya Daniel, sa akin, after 7 decades, I've come to realize na yung talagang kaya kong palitan or kaya kong makontrol o madirect ay ang aking pamilya. Apart from improving myself, making sure that my family is brought up the right way with the right values to become good citizens and to be of service to others. Yun lang naman Yun lang naman importante dyan. At if I keep on interfering or looking outside and not fixing what's inside, if I keep on criticizing others for not doing a good job, but I forget to be a good father, to be a good husband, to be a good role model in the community, baliwala yung sinasabi ko. So start at home. And that's the best from at an early age. Start at home and start with yourself. That's your best contribution to society.
Well, that said, dati gusto nyo po na isulong yung criminal at juvenile justice system natin, ano? Ano pang nakikita ninyo ngayon dito at the present time, Secretary?
Actually, ang tawag ko sa Pilipinas is a target-rich environment. There are so many things to fix, no? Halimbawa, kung ang tanong mo kung nasa pwesto ka sa gobyerno, ano ang ipapayo mo kay Presidente? Well, I will just tell him, please make sure that all of your departments are working. Make sure that lahat ng mga plano nila are synchronized. Yung kanilang mga objectives, yung kanilang mga long-term goals are synergized with your vision and your mission. Kasi ang nakikita mo ngayon sa gobyerno, watak-watak, kanya-kanya. Meron naman silang mga cluster, but are they working as a cluster? Are they working as a unified machine? Meron bang panahon namin ni Presidente Ramos mahilig siya mag-lecture sa amin na do not bring anything to me unless all of you involved in that problem have already discussed it and arrived at a consensus. Kasi pag in-approve ko yan, kayo rin mag-i-implement niyan. And I don't want you guys going in different directions kasi teamwork is what will determine the difference between success and failure. Ganun lang yon. But for some reason, lahat ng mga very good examples at payo ni Presidente Ramos ay, well, hindi na sunod. Kung meron man, going through the motions. Kasi if the reverse is true, if what I'm saying is incorrect, then we would have seen after his administration na well-oiled machine ang Philippine government delivering on its promise to build the nation. Pero wala tayong nakikita ng ganyan Tingnan mo, naunahan na tayo ng Vietnam. And Burma is fast catching up. Bangladesh, nauna na sa atin. Before this, way behind us. So, anong justification natin dyan? How do we explain ourselves? Kung hindi, we've squandered as a nation. We've squandered all of the opportunities for us to build a better Philippines. Now, anong nangyari? Maraming nangyari. And basically, negligence. Pinabayaan natin edukasyon. pinabayaan natin ang lessons of history that could have improved our behavior as a people. We have ignored and neglected good or best practice sa governance. We have not kept up with the rest of the world that have improved themselves continually. Wala. Happy-go-lucky tayo. And yet, we want all the rewards of a first world country. Ano ka? So, so here we are, frustrated as usual, saying the same things that we have been saying all these years. And para bang nobody really cares. Everybody agrees, everybody says you're right, but nobody does anything to get out of their comfort zone to do something about it on a steady basis, day in, day out, until we finally changed ourselves as a nation. Wala.
Dito po
So,
sa
what are we
ating
to do?
dito po sa ating anti-terror law ngayon na somehow yung ating existing Human Security Act of 2007 na-repeal niyan nitong anti-terror law natin ng 2020. Ano niyo diyan? Are you happy with it?
Well, I'm happy with it in the sense that it's a lot better than the previous Human Security Act of 2007 kasi walang ipin yun eh. What's important sa anti-terror law natin is that we are able to prevent terrorist acts that would impact on lives and property. So there are many provisions there that now provide the legal basis for our law enforcement and intelligence communities to act decisively before a terrorist act happens. In the past, wala tayong ganon. So I'm happy with that. But at the same time, the law is not enough. We have to make sure that the people that we field to enforce the anti-terror law are top-notch. Hindi yung mediocre and then we'll take shortcuts. Because that would be a mockery of the law and it would just simply discredit the government. And instead of gaining the support of the citizenry, ay tatalikuran sila. So very important that the law is there to give our law enforcers and intelligence communities the legal basis to protect society. But the people themselves who are responsible for that, who have the authority and have the responsibility to protect society, have to have the proper credentials and qualifications. A title is not enough. They have to prove themselves on a daily basis. At talagang tutukan yan. Kailangan silang matutukan.
Based po sa observation ninyo sa mga nakakaraan, are you confident that our anti-terror law can be implemented properly?
Well, that's hypothetical. We'll see how that happens. What actually happens? It can go that way. It can be the reverse. No, it all depends. But it's hard to conclude based on a hypothesis.
Ano po ang pinakamalaking maaaring nakikita niyong challenge dito for it to be implemented properly?
Ito nga, yung selection and training of the people that are tasked to protect society, the intelligence community at saka yung operators. And then, of course, the leadership that's watching over them, providing them all of the policy guidance and whatnot. No, dapat they have to have the proper mindset, the skills, and the determination and persistence to be able to do the right thing 24/7.
Nagkakabanggaan dun sa mga red tagging at daming usapan dyan. Anong masasabi nyo dyan sa mga sinasabi ho ngayon tungkol dun sa mga taong nai-involve at pati yung mga nasa Makabayan block being the legal front of the communism, itong nila Joma Sison. What are your thoughts on this, Secretary?
Kuya Daniel, when I was DILG, I was Homeland Security, basically. And I was facing all kinds of internal security problems, from the communist insurgency to Al-Qaeda, no? Including common crimes and transnational crime. Kilalang namin kilala ko ang kilos ng CCP, CPP, NDF, NPA. Ang sinasabing red tagging na yan, sino ba ang who coined that term red tagging? Sila din eh. We don't have to red tag because they have incriminated themselves through their behavior all these years. Kilala na sila. And then every now and then, because of their siguro overconfidence, papayabang, si Joma mismo at saka yung mga heads ng NDF organizations nagpupulong-pulong, lumalabas sa YouTube. There's no need to red tag. They're advertising themselves. Ang critical itong masasabi ko, Kuya Daniel. Their belief in communism is not a problem. They can believe it. Anybody is free to believe whatever they want to believe in. But if they engage in acts that violate the law, yung specified sa, for example, sa revised penal code, that's their lookout. If they violate the law, they habulin sila. They cannot hide. They cannot hide behind the law and say, you cannot run after me because I'm an ideologue. I don't care if you're an ideologue or whether you have no ideology, but if you violate the law, habulin kita.
Well, with the present problems po na naglipa na ngayon, lahat yan, meron pang pandemic tayong hinaharap, meron pa tayong ngayon ay bukod po dyan sa pandemic natin, calamities natin left and right. Ano po ang tinitingnan ninyo come 2021 and ano ang tinitingnan yung mas magandang atin po ngayong pagtuunan ng pansin when it comes to like yung adjustment po ng ating normals na sinasabi nila, no? Kasi ang mahalaga dito ngayon din, papaano i-distribute ng gobyerno yung properly yung ating budget. Kasi parang nag-aagaw-agawan talaga eh. Nakita nyo naman ho, ang education natin, big adjustment tayo with the present situation. Ang atin pong health ay napakalaki rin po ng ating ngayong adjustment na kailangan dyan. Sinabayan pa po ng problema natin with PhilHealth. Sinabayan pa nitong pagkahinto noong pag-testing because of utang dito sa kay PRC. All of this, may pinag-uusapan ho ditong budget eh. Talagang hatakan po dito eh. Kung sa inyo pong obserbasyon yung tatanungin, saan ba tayo talaga dapat magbigay ng priority, Secretary?
Right now, because of the situation, tatlo yung risks, national risks na nakikita ko eh. Number one is of course public health, no? Kasi COVID does not respect age or gender.
Yes.
But ang gustong-gusto niya are people with preconditions, and there are many Filipinos who have preconditions. So public health is very important. Number two, yung economic security. Because of COVID, many of the problems that we were already facing or experiencing before COVID were greatly impacted, or shall we say worsened. For example, meron na tayong unemployment problem before COVID, lalong sumama yung unemployment problem. And when you have no job, you have no income. When you have no income, you cannot purchase anything. Walang consumption. So baksak ang mall, baksak ang mga manufacturers, baksak ang mga retailers, wholesalers, baksak ang supply chain across the board. So there's a need for the government to focus on saving lives and saving jobs to try to get back to normal as quickly as possible. However, one must remember that up to now, the invisible enemy, tawag natin ay COVID-19, still has the upper hand because our knowledge of COVID-19 is not complete. We keep on learning new things about it. In the meantime, COVID reigns supreme all over the world. In fact, it is making, is resurging again sa mga first world countries, particularly mga temperate countries. No? So that will continue to impact on the global economy. And how long the world will suffer with respect to the economic downturn remains to be seen. Tayo, we have to focus our attention on our survival as a nation. But while I say that, there's a third factor that also impacts on our survival. And that has to do with the geopolitical situation obtaining in our area. Because more and more, as the days pass, the global security experts are saying that we are inching closer to a kinetic or hot conflict, to a kinetic war. War is already ongoing. Kasi pag nakita mo tiningnan mo yung spectrum of warfare, all the elements, financial warfare, cyber warfare, economic warfare, information warfare, nangyayari na yun. Ang kulang na lang yung bakbakan, yung actual shooting. At our global security experts are saying that we're headed towards that because of the intransigence of certain parties, of certain countries, and where they see that the number one superpower is weakening. Makikita natin sa Amerika na deeply divided ang society, deeply divided ang political establishment nila. And so, in a war, sino ang mananalo? Ang bansa na may maraming armas pero divided, o yung bansa na medyo kinukulan ng konti sa weapons at weapon systems pero solid na solid. For example, Vietnam War. Vietnam, because of its deep nationalism, despite its drawbacks in equipment, because of their patriotism and dedication to the cause, beat two superpowers, France and the United States. Panalo sila. Why? Because the Americans, because of their lack of unity and deep divisions politically, beat themselves. They beat themselves. Para bang Kuya Daniel tayo naglalaro ng tennis. Ikaw ang magaling. Ako ay novato lang. Bagong-bago lang. Pero you're making all the mistakes and you're very overconfident. You're very overconfident and you're underestimating the other side. Chances are, based on history, matatalo ka. Because you'll be because of that attitude, and because of the situation, your internal situation. So top 3 risks. Geopolitical risk, kailangan bantayan natin yan. Ano yung kailangan natin gawin? We have to make sure that we are secure in our homeland against infiltrators. Yung mga hinahawakan nilang mga vital infrastructure that's critical to our national security, kailangan we have to loosen their grip there. We have to continue building our credible deterrence. We have to continue building our public health institutions to save lives. And we have to strengthen our economic and financial institutions to be able to not just generate jobs, but to be able to grow the economy and prepare it for takeoff once we get out of COVID. A lot to be done, but that means strong leadership, focused leadership, teamwork among all of the managers that are being orchestrated by the leaders with the right skills, with the right mindset, and total support from the nation. Kasi after all, if the nation does not support the government, wala din ang society, wala din ang lipunan, walang mapupuntahan. So, all of these things have to come together under one heading. All of that na sinabi ko comes under one heading, getting our act together.
Well, thank you so much, Secretary. At ako'y naniniwala po na maraming, lalo na sa mga kabataan ngayon na nagkakaroon ng ideya na mas malawak with all of these things that you are saying. But before I let you go, baka meron po kayong ibang mga gustong ipanawagan sa ating mga kababayan, things that you still would like to say at maiwanan sa kanila. Nasa inyo po ang pagkakataon, Secretary, please.
Thank you, Kuya Daniel. Last 2 Sundays ago, one of my favorite gospel passages was read, and this was the Beatitudes. No? And it's important for us to focus on the words of our Lord Jesus Christ and taking to heart the 7 or 8 Beatitudes that he spoke, constituting his Sermon on the Mount. The other is 2 simple commandments, very, very simple commandments that we have not lived up to. One is love God with all of your heart and soul. Put God in the center of your life and your heart, in your family. The other one is love your brother and sister the way you love yourself. Love is the opposite of hate, and love will provide you the pathways to progress. Hate will lead you to destruction. Ganun lang kasimple yun. And if we're able to put that to heart, then everything that we do in the family, in the community, in our workplace, and in our country will be for the common good, will be towards serving each other and caring for each other. That's what's missing in our society. That's something that we need to reflect on and work together to reach that desired condition where we have a sense of brotherhood, a sense of common good, a sense of public service. And ultimately, with a sense of brotherhood, we will have a sense of nationhood and the kind of patriotism that will build a nation for our children for a long, long time. Yun lang pong masasabi ko.
I completely agree with you on that, and I couldn't agree with you more. At maraming salamat po at kaisa niyo po kami dyan. At ika nga, isang bagay na aming magiging bahagi ay maging daan para makarating ang iba't ibang mahalagang impormasyon at lalo na po ang pagmamahal sa ating kapwa-tao na tantamount ng pagmamahal natin sa Panginoon. Kagaya ng inyong sinasabi, kaya dito po sa amin sa UNTV, ang aming pilit na isinusulong ay ang ating pong public service. At nandyan po ang ating mga serbisyong bayanihan na umaabot sa ating mga kapwa-tao sa ating maliit na paraan na magagawa. At kung ano po ang aming may pagsisilbi, makakaasa po kayo na kasama nyo kami sa lahat ng bagay na mabuti. Kagaya po na aking sinabi, ako po ay sumasang-ayon sa inyo 100% and may God bless you, Secretary Rafi. At dalangin po namin ang inyong kaligtasan. At looking forward to seeing you again. At kahit na maputi na ang buhok nyo, nakalitaw pa rin yung gandang lalaki nyo. Salamat po. Let's have coffee sometime, sir. Salamat po. Thank you so much.
Looking forward to that. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Si Secretary Rafael Alunan, former DILG Secretary po at kasalukuyang Chairman po ng Philippine Council for Foreign Relations and siya po ang ating nakapanayam. Ako naman po ang inyong Kuya Daniel Razon. Dito po sa UNTV, Diyos ang aming sandigan, serbisyo publiko ang aming pinahahalagahan. Ito po ang Get It Straight with Daniel Razon. Magandang umaga po.